sound like Jerry Simon. What is the deal with tone? Hi, my name is Brad. I'm a drummer and audio engineer, and today we're going to go over the 10 things that can make or break your drum recordings. All right, we're going to start out with number 10 and work our way up to number 1. Number 10, setting the gain. It's very important to set it above the noise floor, just high enough to where it's not going to cause you any issues with noise being in the mix, and not too high to where it's clipping or causing digital distortion. Very ugly sound. So you want it to be above the noise floor, probably around -3, -6, somewhere in that range. It really allows you to mix things much easier. Number 9, the interface or your preamps. The interface that I have is an Apollo X8P. It has 8 preamps, and they're wonderful. They're very powerful and very clean, and you can also add like Neve or SSL preamps, and it does all kinds of magical things internally, and it gives you that sound that you're looking for, whether it's a Neve or SSL. And it just, I don't know, I like the flexibility of that. But if you do not have Apollo X8P, because I came from the, what was it called, PreSonus Fire Studio project, and I worked with that for probably about 4 years, maybe 5 years, and then I upgraded. But I was able to get really good sounds out of the Fire Studio project. So don't count yourself out if you don't have an Apollo X8P or something like that. But just as long as it doesn't have a bunch of noise that it's adding to your mix right out of the gate. Number 8, microphones. Got to choose the right microphones for the job. Putting like a ribbon mic on a snare might be a very, very dangerous thing. And knowing your way around the microphones, what they are, condensers, ribbons, dynamics, it's a very, very important part of it. Knowing the polar patterns is a huge part of it. So mic choice is a major part of the overall drum recording experience. Number 7, mic placement. The way you place your microphones is a major part of your overall recorded drum sound. The distance from the drum itself, if you get it super, super close, you're going to pick up a lot of the overtones, and the sustain is going to decrease. Everybody thinks that it's going to increase because it's so close to hearing it, but it's actually going to decrease. So if you raise it up a little bit further away from it, all of a sudden the sustain starts to happen. It's an interesting little magical thing that happens with mic placement, and definitely worth experimenting with. Number 6, sticks. Sticks play a big part in the overall recorded drum sound. If you're playing with huge drumsticks, you'd think that it would make a huge sound. It's actually quite the opposite. When you play quietly, or at least a little bit more on the dynamics, where your dynamics aren't always peaking and everything is kind of in the middle, you know, you want a middle to low, your drums are going to open up. It's a magical thing that happens when you play a little bit lower, a little bit quieter. Your drums resonate and they sing a little bit more, and sticks are a big part of that. And then it gets into the nylon versus wood tips thing. Nylon is obviously going to be a brighter sound on the cymbals, but also it can add a little bit more attack on the drums themselves. So look at your sticks. I changed from, what was it? I was doing 2B, and then I went to 5B, and now I'm playing X55As, and I find these to be right there in that middle ground where I just really can get the best of both worlds. So there you go. The room is one of those things where if you don't have options, you know, because this room is the only option I have in my house to do this. And so what can you do with a room? Well, what I did is all of this was just normal bedroom type of walls. And so what I did is I put a bunch of carpet and padding, and just to tone down the reflections everywhere, because the high end was just bouncing around like crazy in here. And then the other thing is I was playing on a carpet, actually a rug, for decades. I played on carpets and had no problem with it, or so I thought. Then somebody suggested that I play on a harder surface. And every time I went to a recording studio, a professional recording studio, it was always playing on a harder surface, and it never clicked. I was like, okay, well, if I do that same thing here, what will happen? And it changed it big time. I have vinyl flooring down on top of a rug, and it just works. It gives it that livelier sound. It's inspiring to play. Yeah, it's one of those things where take a look at what you're actually setting your drums on. It's part of the room. And also, if you can't change anything about your room, I would just make that one change is where you put carpet and padding on your walls to calm down the reflection, because those high frequencies, they bounce around like crazy and it becomes a mess. Low end, use bass traps in your corners. That's big time saver of mixes there. The ceiling, I have some padding so anything doesn't reflect back into the overheads. Yeah, so your room is a big part of your recorded sound. Tuning. Tuning is huge. Tuning is one of those things where people think that it's like this dark art, and it's really not that complicated. Just think every lug needs to be tuned to the same pitch. There's TuneBot. Those things are fantastic. If you're new to tuning, I recommend doing both by ear and using the TuneBot because you can kind of really start to experiment and recreate your experiments if you have a TuneBot. The other thing is that understanding the relationship between the batter and the resonant. When you have the drum tuned to the same pitch on both heads, it's going to be the most resonant that drum will produce. And then if you change the relationship, that's when the sustain is going to decrease. So that is it. If you want the drum to resonate like crazy, tune the pitch to the same pitch, but then it gets into this. What does it sound like in the track that you're working on? So if it sounds great to your ear, that's one thing, but then try it against, actually record it and hear it in the track that you're working on, because it might not be the right tuning. It might need some, it might need to go way low, might need to go way high. Something isn't working. If it sounds like, well, it should be killer. It sounds like, great to my ear. Well, the microphone says something different, and it also reacts to the music. So tuning is one of those things where your recording can go way high, as in quality, or way low if it's not, jiving with the actual track that you're working on. So tuning. Number 3, heads. Okay, so I am a huge fan of Remo ambassador coated drum heads. I have them on the batter side of all my toms. I have clear ambassadors on the bottom, and I'm just a big fan of big open sounding drums. I'm a Simon Phillips fan, and his sound to me is like legendary. Every single time I hear him play, not only is he an amazing drummer, musician, and audio engineer, but his sound is so just perfect. Every time I hear him play, it's just perfect. And it was like that live too. I saw him at the Blue Note in Napa recently, and it was just amazing. It was just like, what in, anyway. So I'm a huge fan of that sound. Now, if you're gonna go into a studio and your heads are dented and dead and just lifeless, you're gonna expect that sound to come back. It's not going to be, they're going to have, the audio engineer or mixing engineer is going to have to do a lot of work to get those things to sound awesome, unless you're going for a trashy sound, which is totally fine. If you're going for a huge open sound, I would recommend 1-ply heads. If you're going for a little, still open, but a little bit heavier sounding, a little bit more attack, I would go with a 2-ply. So we'll keep it simple on that one. The drums, as long as the drums are in round and the bearing edges are good and the hoops are in the round, you know, everything is working properly, you're going to have a great experience because you're going to know how to tune, you're going to do all the mic placement, all of the things you're going to do with these drums. You're going to treat them like a pro. So the drums are basically your best friend unless they're out of round and the bearing edges are horrible. So there you go. All right, we're at number 1, and the number 1 part of the recorded drum sound is the drummer. You guessed it. So the drummer makes a massive, big time difference on the sound of the recording, and I'll give you a short example of this. Short story might turn into a long story. I'll try to keep it quick. So I was in the drum off, and I did it for 5 years, and I think this was like 2003 or 4. And I was competing against these two individuals that went on to do really, really big things, and rightfully so. So Justin Brown and Eric Moore. So if you haven't seen these guys play, please do so. I hadn't met them up until that point, and what I witnessed, I was like, I watched Justin Brown do his thing, and Cindy Blackman was the celebrity judge, and when Justin played, Cindy Blackman, like, I can't remember the exact face, but it was one of these like, oh, like that type of thing. I was like, okay, I lost already. But then Eric Moore got up there and he did his thing, and if you haven't seen him, you're on YouTube, Eric Moore drumming, just check it out. Yeah, I was like, what is this? I'm going home. There's no way. There's zero chance I'm going to win this thing. I didn't, by the way. Cut to the chase here. I did not win. Justin Brown won. Yeah, I mean, it was a jazz thing. Cindy Blackman, the jazz drummer, you know what I mean? So there was that. But Eric Moore just threw down. It was insane what I was witnessing. Like I said, I hadn't seen him play until that very day, and it was like front and center. I was like, what is this? I've never, ever witnessed anything like that up until that point. So anyway, so I digress. Justin Brown and Eric Moore played the exact same kit. They didn't tune it differently. They played the exact same kit, and it sounded wildly different, very different. And everything sounded different. I was like, what is the deal with it? How would you make a snare drum, toms, bass drum sound different just by a drummer? Like, what is the deal? And I did not know, it sounded like Jerry Simon. What is the deal with tone? Anyway, so yeah, that was a big time lesson. And then later on, I actually worked at Guitar Center, did my 2.5 years. Thank you very much. That was enough for me. But Eric Moore dropped in more times than not. I mean, he was always in the store playing every single kit, and it always sounded good, no matter what series, or no matter how expensive, if it was a $50 drum set up to a $5,000 drum set, it always sounded like Eric Moore, and it always sounded incredible. It's like he could sell anything in that store because he just made it sound good. I loved when he came in because he would sit down and somebody would say, yeah, that $400 drum set all of a sudden sounds like a $10,000 drum set. Yeah, that's the way they sound. Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyway, so that's my point, is that it's the drummer, not the drums. If you do every single thing else that we just went over, 10 through 1, 2, I don't know, obviously your chances are going to be that much better, sounding great. But this is the point that I'm trying to make. The drummer, being you, hopefully, might be an audio engineer. Get into drums if you're into audio engineering. Anyway, if it's you that is actually drumming, I would lean in to your sound. So do all of these things, but then it's going to be your sound because it's you playing. So there you go. Those are my 10 essential whatever. I don't know what I titled this video, but those are 10 things to look at regarding drum recording. I hope you got something out of this one. Thank you very much for being here, and I will see you next Monday. We're going to do this every Monday from this point on. So I took about 1.5 years off of doing every Monday. The first 1.5 years was, every Monday, and then I kind of veered off. So anyway, we're back to Mondays. So thank you very much again for watching, and I will see you next time.